And it was really then all on Azator to make the magic happen. And he's going to have to do it again today in a team that's not in a dissimilar position that Nariki were in last year. We're into picks and bans, and we need to see exactly where we're going to be at. As of course, Yuumi, a very rapid ban away. They do not want to give that option up, but I wonder whether that means we'll see the response to the Milio in order to not have that be the first pick option. Instead, right now, the LeBlanc currently off the table.
Yeah, remember everybody, we are on 13-11. Don't know who would tell you that you're on 13-12. So banning away these enchanters.
Not one of my analysts. They would never do that.
Never, and they would never mislead you. Definitely not this guy right here.
They would never DDoS anyone.
That either. That would be strictly unprofessional. So you expect Milio to be taken away at some point or first picked
it feels like
at
that's
the best
value.
juncture.
Yep. Him over there.
Yep.
That's the problem. But there's the Szechuan off the table. There's the Maokai. Anything else you're kind of really expecting that needs to be on the table with these teams? I mean, Zeri.
I didn't get to touch on it.
The mid
because I
jungle
thought
needs
it
to be
was-
addressed.
Yeah, okay, go.
Like, for sure. I think right now with the Yuumi down, if you were to go like Zeri first pick over on the side of Nord, it's quite easy to just pick the Lulu away into an Aphelios and then be quite happy with that. The Lulu's the last thing alive that makes the Zeri incredibly broken, so it would have to be more like a Lulu first pick.
I mean, if you are going to see that Milio be left open, you first pick the Milio, then as the response just surely is that Zeri and the Lulu, and then you probably end up with the Lucian or something in the response, and we have two bot lanes that become pretty important to get ahead. But the Milio is down. That does leave up things like the Zeri. It does leave up things like the Lulu, which could well be picked up. Of course, things like Zion Rakan still on the table, and we have seen a little bit of that things. Instead, something not what I was expecting with the Azir first pick.
Yeah. Now, if Uniq were to go for the Zeri Lulu, it will be traded for Zion Rakan, and vice versa. Zion Rakan will be traded for the Zeri Lulu. Zion Rakan gets a lot of priority in every league right now, generally because it's one of those super heavy skirmish picks that do so well in scrims, where the environment is very volatile. That normally then transfers over, similar to how we begin every season, if you'll remember, with Lucian Nami, and then everyone forgets about it because that pops off in scrims and doesn't do so well on stage. Similar thing with the Zaya. So they're not going straight for Zeri Lulu. They're in fact going for the Vi and for the Aphelios. They can secure Vi Ahri here, which is a very potent combo.
I also wanted to call this one out, Rooted, as well on that, because of course it's 13-11 Vi, so this is towards the height of her powers, and you know we've seen how off. What's the priority on Vi? Like it's been super high.
It's crazy, and this does set up for a Zaya Rakan response. In fairness, for Nord,
There it is.
Zaya very powerful versus the Vi specifically, right? You just use your ult to counter the cease and assist. Of course, Uniq do respond with this Vi Ahri, so we've got very powerful duos on either side of the lane or either side of the map. Oman going to need to be very careful, and there is going to need to be meticulous vision control from both him, Indecision, and Seneca's going to need to help out as well, making sure that Waljo is tracked at pretty much every time post level 6, because if that's not the case, Waljo presses R and Oman dies.
Crucially, the Vi pick with that point-and-click CC negates the Zeri pick overall, which is what has forced Nord on towards the Zaya Rakan out of the two available options. So a nice opening by Uniq, unless they watched yesterday's game, where Hiddo had a very impressive stat line on that Zaya, and now has it paired with the Rakan. You could see Hiddo at the height of his powers.
Yeah, absolutely not afraid to be running that one. Of course, Azator is no stranger to the Aphelios, and I think some of these bans, perhaps no surprise either. The jungle focus from the side of Uniq, when they've already locked in theirs, makes sense. They get rid of the Wukong, they get rid of the Jarvan. Two of the bigger team fight engaged champions. Wukong at 13-11, still pretty strong. Scales, arguably the best of any jungler out there. Looking like the top lane focus instead from Nord. I wonder whether they'll follow that up with something like maybe a Renekton or a Sion or some other thing that might be a top lane bruiser slash tank at some front
surely.
Line. Actually, what am I talking? Of course, Cassante would make so much sense. Instead, they go towards a Nordless ban. My analysts clearly absolutely speaking wisdom there.
Well, clearly not. Yes, they didn't want it. They're just
I know
let
they
them...
didn't, but that's surely just going to be a Cassante fourth pick then, isn't it? Or they want the Lulu, yeah. But they're in threat of losing it because they've lost the Rakan on the other side. Just last pick the Lulu and get the Cassante.
Yeah, you're in a good position to just straight counterpick enemy bot lane, force them to have to blind top and then counterpick that top. Leona is a classic counterpick in towards the Rakan. They haven't opted to go the Vi, Ahri, Lulu, 3/4 of the Powerpuff Girls combo. They've instead gone for the Leona, added some yellow in towards the mix, fair enough, but this is the traditional counter to the Rakan. Very slippery champion, goes in, comes out, goes back in again, blah blah blah. Leona, no, you're staying here, we're going to get our burst off. She can lair that CC and start the CC chain that the Vi, Ahri, and the Aphelios all do really well with.
Yeah, they look to lock in a Poppy, which could, of course, go towards the top lane. We've seen that already today. We've seen that a little bit around the world in general. But it is, for the moment, a flex pick until, of course, the last few seconds countdown and that final pick comes through. Rudu, are you expecting this to be the jungle Poppy or the top lane Poppy? Because Gragas is also strictly a flexy.
It is indeed. It's going to be Poppy top. I think Cashcross has like 3 plays on this already. So far this split, it's pretty much just his champion. 2-1 so far for Nord, which is decent enough ratio given that they've got only 3 wins total. And it's nice to see Indecision on this Gragas as well. A lot of disruption. It's a great way of making sure that if Unique Corn dives in, his orientation may be a bit thrown off by a barrel, and as well keeping Azator as far away from the fight as possible when that dive starts.
Well, perhaps I wasn't as madly off as I perhaps thought, because the Xanta gets all the way through picks and bans here some way, somehow, and it is going to be that Sion last pick here to add in the Bulwark in the front lane, in the front line to try and keep Azator's Aphelios safe. And it does look like we got ourselves another game of some front to back, so perhaps with a little bit more disruption on the side of Nord, even a little bit more dive on the side of Unique.
Yeah, an awful lot of disengage. It's basically a full-on disengage composition. You have Gragas, you have your Poppy, really obvious knockbacks, you have your Zir, really obvious, you have your Xayah, very, very obvious, and Rakan for re-engage, engage, whatever he wants. It's a very broken champion, to be honest. It's also an enchanter. The Poppy, good control onto all of the dashes from the opponents. You have a hard engage pick composition on one side and a hard disengage composition on the other. The modifier, the Ahri. The Ahri is range pick. It can go to the side of the Poppy. It doesn't have to go into the Azir. It can burn the cooldown from Xayah without much cost to it.
Jungle, yeah.
Yeah, so it's Poppy jungle. Instead. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still works for the Ahri, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not as easy itemization. Double AP jungle mid, probably not the best thing ever. So having that duelist in the jungle on the Poppy, definitely a better setup. Gragas, very easy lane on top.
And of course, like the combination of the Vi and the Ahri has been one we've seen for a couple years now. It's kind of been one of the higher prio combos you can go towards, and for obvious reasons, right? But they can both follow up on each other very, very well. They make one person's life very, very difficult because they just lock down for what feels like 30 seconds and they die. But as kind of Veteran was calling out, there is a lot of disengage to try and make that combo a lot harder to execute. It's still a pretty potent combo. And Rudu, do you think they've got what it takes to make it work? Because, they've got other tools on, they've got the Sion, they've got the Aphelios, they've got the Leona. It's not like it's just this combo that needs to work, but can they make it work with how much disengage they're kind of going up against here?
I think the fortunate thing is that there's Leona, which is engage without dash. With the solar flare, if you're able to lock down a target with that, and if Poppy's even mispositioned for a second, that gives you your way in. That's how I'd like to see these team fights play out. Like the nuance on the specifics of this team fight rely on finding good engagements with the solar flare at the right time to allow then Vi to also dash through, because she can't get interrupted from her cease and desist either, so Poppy W doesn't actually help with that. It's actually very difficult for Indecision to position in the correct space of a team fight if that happens. So there are tools possible for both sides, and I'd like to see which of them can play it out better, because I do think it is actually going to come down to execution, which is a bit of the cop-out answer, but that I can see it working both ways.
We are, just a heads up before we do keep going, into 4 for 4. It's another match pause. We are into episode 8 of the NLC podcast. Amazing. And we are in a bit of a frustrating point on that one, but it does give us a little bit more time to dive into this. Before I let you go, Veteran, I am reminded of an old statement made by SKT Wolf, of course, the former world champion support with SKT, who really liked Leona and Xayah, specifically because you could blow her ult for free from range. And at the time, the Leona ult was just significantly lower cooldown than the Xayah ultimate. So you could get your ultimate off a second time before hers came up. That changed a little bit, I suspect, with the Navori, but I feel like that's not a pretty valuable tool when you're into a lot of this disengage to try and make the Xayah that bit more vulnerable, right, Veteran? Maybe?
Oh yeah, for sure. The problem is just that in a group scenario, you get that off on the Xayah, and then the Poppy knocks away everybody else on your team, the Gragas knocks away everyone else on your team, the Azir knocks away everyone on your team. For me, the counterplay there is not going to be these cooldown timings, it's going to be how you play out the map. A grouping from the enemy team counters the grouped stage of yours. So you have to force these 2v2, 3v3 skirmish situations, right? Where you have your CC, but you don't necessarily have your damage, your power, you're engaged. You miss something in that 5-man. And in that, you have the 2v2 from Viari. The 2v2 from Viari is going to be way more potent than any other 2v2 on the enemy team here. You have the 2v2 from your bot lane. It's going to be more potent than any other 2v2 on the enemy. Sure, Xayah are kind of quite fortress on 6, but they don't have as much power as an Aphelios does straight up. You can win if you keep splitting them up and you keep getting small fights. But if you allow them to run away with the game, you allow them to get a straight 5-on-5, you're definitely going to struggle.
Win conditions succinctly put forward there by Veteran with the pick-oriented Uniq comp with alongside a slight bit of what we call that visual artifact perhaps, and we're back on screen again. In episode 10, we're back. The podcast continues, and Rudude, in that case, with that in mind, you've heard that it's a slightly more fractious pick-based skirmish game that Uniq's comps are looking for. Yeah. I am also aware this is a game state, a meta that has often prioritized and championed comps that are able to play around those dragons and those heralds early. And I feel like you have got a slightly stronger 5v5 on the side of Nord, as we've kind of said. There's got to be ways to disengage what Uniq have. Do you kind of agree with that, or are you kind of favoring Uniq here still?
No, I'll give it. Then again, comes down to whether Nord are willing to commit to those 5v5s early, or if Uniq are going to try and split the map with those fractured fights, those smaller order skirmishes at the neutral objectives, right? We've talked a lot about 6-minute Drake fights. Are we going to see the early rotation from catch cost? Likely not, down to the bot side, and then you give the sort of angle over to Uniq because they've got the slightly better small order fight. Same thing for the Rift Herald a little bit later on. Are we going to see supports rotate up to that top side and see Nord again fully commit to a 5v5?
So we've got another NLC player fact here saying the Poopy's a baking enthusiast, and that's great, and I'm really happy for the team and for Poopy. But I would say I have probably got some slight quandaries in eating cakes by anybody named Poopy. I feel like that feels like an unnecessary risk for obvious reasons.
I think you're going to need to spell them out for me, initialize them.
No, I don't think I will do that on broadcast.
This is very zone-oriented gameplay from Uniq Corn. I don't know if he's coming out on the better end of these trades, but he's certainly looking to take them.
I've just been given I just had Nymera interrupt me, by the way. He just walked into my room because he lives with me. He just gave me a little note card saying cast to start the game. So we're here and we've done that, but I feel like, I've just been given quite a lot of power here, guys. Well, what do I do with the start the game button?
You're supposed to press it, I think.
Do I
when
do
it pauses
Is it
next.
too late?
Joke I'm missing here.
You must know cast to start game.
The game, you must surely. Veteran, are you behind on this meme?
I mean, I don't listen to other casts, so I don't know.
Oh, I see how it is. He's a casting elitist, Rudy. Does that make me what is that? Are we kind of rarefied company then? Like to be joined by Veteran here who is so distinctive about the casts he deigns to join in.
Well, he's very frequently co-streaming, right? So
actually, no, in fairness, that is true. That is true.
Ooh, why would you use your brain like that, dude? God damn. Yeah, no. If I turn the cast on, I will literally get copyright struck.
Okay. I've got the button, guys. I'm gonna try. I don't even.
Okay, what is this?
So I've got a button again.
I have no idea what this is.
You can read that. Probably not. It's not focusing very well, guys. It does say strictly cast to start the game. Oh no. I think it's because I got background blur on. It's blurring out. It does strictly say cast to start the game, as handed to me by Nymera.
Now, I think that we've spared a couple of expenses here, unfortunately, and this is the ramification for only bringing you on week 4.
With technical issues.
You've got to start the game card.
It worked!
On a very big delay.
Okay. No, look, it's just lag. That's all it is.
It had to go through everybody's PCs,
That's it.
You know how long that takes?
Exactly. Come on, man. Give me some credit here. Thanks, Al. You sorted me out. It's actually Nymera's birthday today, so shout out to Alex. Happy birthday. He gave me a card as a present on his birthday. What kind soul he is.
That's true.
Okay. What a kind soul.
Are you just a terrible brother then? Like, you're receiving gifts on his birthday? That's not on.
Yeah, I take that. He'd probably agree. That's rough. I'm being
Happy birthday, Nymera. I'll bully your brother for your birthday.
That cards in the post.
I think I put myself in for this, guys. You know, the chat's probably bullying me now as well. I've just been done in. That's fair. Yeah. Alex will probably enjoy that. It's probably quite a good birthday present for him. Perhaps instead, now that the game has been started again, with the power of the cast to start the game button, what are we doing in this early game, guys? Is there anywhere we're actually putting our eyes? You know, I take that point, but
okay, let's
some more
talk about
focused answers rather than like a slightly more meta approach to this one. But I take your point.
Not a necessary. So I want to talk about
heavily at it.
It's not an elephant in the room necessarily of the draft, but it is something that we don't see too often.
It's a yodel?
I'm going to talk. It is, yeah. I'm going to talk about Poppy Jungle for a little bit.
Let's do it. Yeah, I knew it. There we go.
So this is Phase Rush Poppy Jungle. Now there are a couple of iterations of Poppy Jungle that you can take. Some of them that are boring, and some of them that are what Indecision's opted for this time, which is Broom Broom, Go Fast. And I'm very happy to see that basically you will act as a tank for the most part, but also a tank with incredible movement speed. When you slam somebody into a wall, knock them up then with your ulti, and then, you know, on this time, Uniq are going to go, okay, let's focus the champion that's frontlining. Oh wait, they've run away.
I've gotten some dissent from the back room. Wita in our production chat has said that Phase Rush is Bedge and that Dark Harvest Poppy is where it's actually at, and I feel like that's a really relevant point that you failed to consider.
No. I did not fail to consider Dark Harvest Poppy. It wasn't relevant because it didn't fit my narrative. You see?
Of course. Yeah, that's how.
And also, when we compare it to Aftershock Poppy, Phase Rush is pretty entertaining, right? Like,
yeah, veteran. There's a dragon happening. It's not quite 6 minutes, but it's close enough. And that's something you called out way back in like game 1 at this point. But I do feel like, oh man, please be careful. He walks away from the Ari. Are you on board with the Phase Rush Poppy, or are you a base Dark Harvest Poppy enjoyer?
I couldn't give a toss, mate. I couldn't.
He just doesn't even bother engaging with the comment. This is why he doesn't listen to the cast. This is where we end up. Probably wise. Gets himself out of situations.
Do you think he's
like
listened to us at all today? That's the question.
I think he probably would have done himself a favour if he didn't, considering how off the boil we've got here.
I'm so happy that I have the co-streaming technicality excuse to give. You know, I'm so happy I have that. Right? No, it's nothing. It's no judgment on you. It would be copyrighted, you know, just no judgment.
He's judging us, Rudy. I'm feeling good, eh?
Whenever anybody says no judgment, they're judging. That's the rule.
They're judging, exactly. It's just a bit rude, isn't he? I thought
when people say no offence with the intention of offending you, is basically what's just happened.
Yeah, no offence.
Timing on bot lane.
Yeah, no offence, veteran. We didn't mean it.
Timing on bot lane now, right?
Yes.
Like on this wave,
got?
if either side was to go aggressive, if either side was to get the priority reset on this, they're the ones that are able to shift into mid and to top for this Herald. The Herald is the next play. We already have one Infernal down from Lord. They have a fairly good composition bot side to 2v2 with. So you can see this slow push wave coming in. They're playing it very, very slowly, but they don't want to play it so slow that they just give Uniq a straight recall. So you should see something happen here on the next wave. Unless... Yep, okay, so they're fitting it out now. They don't want it to be too big. Poopy doesn't want to get engaged on. Oh, they have got a root down. We can keep playing aggro here. If they just let a Zetor crash this, then Poopy's going to be first on towards that. That Herald. They're running up.
Deal, of course.
Oh my god. They're so boring.
How did this happen?
What are you guys doing?
How did this happen? The whole point of having bot prior was that they could move through the river to this play, right?
And then
like
they didn't
that's what
move
we're...
through the river. Yeah, I know.
I mean, Leona's all the way there, right? Leona's moving in, right? They're shifting the priority in towards mid. Enemy mid has gotten the full recall. Ari's crashing this. She's going to lean in. So right now, the full advantage is on Uniq. And that was a transference of Leona in river into that mid section into top. Yes, she didn't appear in mid, but that lean in already did enough. Azir doesn't want to stay there and take that. And you have Uniq playing very heavily on the timing.
But Leona went back bot and Seneca has completed the roam up. Forces was your off, and for all you could hear veteran praising the sequence of plays there from Uniq. They kind of pull out of it.
It's going to be a fight, finally. Fight!
Possibly a fight. There's the ultimate out of Uniq core.
Poppy missed everything.
Uniq squared on that one, but everything is missed. The Herald secured. In comes the Scions. The flash is burned from Indecision. Wow. That is it. Cass comes out, and the fight peters before it can even start. Maybe
Neutral objectives.
Cass to start the fight button.
Both
Zaya
in favour.
Oh, Ida getting some chunk onto Azator. Doesn't find too much more out of that, but it's a little bit of chunk. Severing Crescendo though, so he should heal right back up by pressing Q.
She was able to get a plate on bot lane though, right? So that's good for her. Not much. Nice. Not much in terms of a minion disadvantage because it was just a cannon wave that crashed in. most of it has been spared for Aphelios, so the Aphelios leaning on mid. That wasn't punished, but Leona, she could have ended up in mid first, in towards top side, but they decided that the Ahri getting first in was enough. Seneca showed that that was not the case, so it didn't go quite as it could have done for Uniq, but, you know, it's still a full new lineup. It could always go worse, right? It could always go worse. I say full new, it's obviously only 1 sub, but it may as well be new.
Yeah, it's a fairly significant difference, because of course, chatting with Rudy, we were sort of trying to figure out how Uniq wanted to play the game. And we were saying, look, they had at least, when they'd found some success, tried to play towards the bot lane, and switching out your bot laner, you know, this place where you have been playing towards, is a pretty significant change. And yes, Azator is someone with a lot of experience, who's played in teams that have been struggling in the past and been semi-successful in that position, but it's still a relatively big change. And thus far, playing pretty okay. It's down a little bit of CS, but not anything hugely known of about half a wave or so. Just about to back away and getting to himself towards that recurve bow. But that's about it. It was slight lead to Nord, who've managed to pick themselves about 1,000 gold lead just from some of those lane advantages as it stands. That's particularly true up in that top lane.
And that's very impressive when they also get both neutral objectives. Typically, you'll see, okay, we're sacking first dragon so that we can get a little bit of gold on the top side of the map, right? You steal away enemy jungle camps. But Nord have managed to come away with the best of both, right? This may only seem like a small lead, but this is actually just generally very good early play from Nord. Or from Uniq. Oh, yeah, from Nord, yeah.
It took a little bit of a moment to get the correct team in, but Rudu's there. You know, it's getting late. We've had a lot of pauses. But actually,
yeah, 2 teams, man. It's easy to get.
They are 2 teams. Oman, so notorious for dying so very much within the NLC, caught out, and that was a fun little combo. Poppy will throw out the ultimate, but will not drag Leona far enough away. However, it was enough to keep Oman alive. Health balls drag low, but nobody dies.
One of the
Dark Harvest Poppy have killed.
No, one of the consistent features.
Stop it! Stop! I'm sorry for bringing this up.
Of this composition for Nord has been Seneca on just Seneca, not Seneca on anything, but Seneca has been very good at engaging. Has also been very good, as we got to see in that fight right there, at saving the team. Managed to get in 3-man charm into 3-man knockup and shielding and healing Oman, who was caught in a very compromised position. Seneca needs credit for how he played that fight because he definitely salvaged that.
Looking to switch out from Calibrum here. There we go. Infernal grabbed him onto Azator. Now looking for 3v3. The teleport coming on through. They want this fight. No Poppy ult. Thank you, veteran. Point that one out. Sion comes ulting in to join this fight. It will now be a massive brawl. The 5-on-5 begins in decision taking, but not out. First blood still goes the way of Ahri. Finally taken down, but now the turnarounds begin to fly. It is 2 for 1 as it stands. Oman begins to stand and fire. His soldiers come flying. Poopy has to back away from the feathers flying as Hido flashes forward looking to claim the life of the Leona. Will finally bring that one down. The bird flies close enough for the sun to swallow it. And the fairy's not even in the game if you saw that particular trailer. In the end, it is a 3 for 1 in favor of Nord, and they pick up the dragon.
Look at the item discrepancies between the AD carries. That's your real big point for that fight, because Hido's completed Kraken Slayer, Azator's still sat on components. Hido comes away with a double kill, where Azator's just sat with an assist.
It's tough.
I
thought about it.
I'm gonna do it.
Didn't go in for it in the end, and it is going to be Nord to come out with a fairly hefty victory in the front of that. They've got the Herald summon as well to add insult to injury. Charge will complete. I don't know whether Oman will be quite in range. No, he's not. So it all goes towards indecision, and that's perhaps not ideal. But either way, the gold still goes on over. And they're back towards this dragon, which wasn't taken. I apologize. It was, of course, the Infernal Dragon that was taken super early on to the game. And in the end, Uniq pay dearly, but they do claim this second dragon of the game.
Are you supposed to yell the corn part of Unique Corn's name?
Corn! Yeah, like that.
Nice. I want to see you do that every single time.
I will do my best.
You also have to do it, though.
Yeah, can we do it in sync?
Okay.
Yeah, well, in sync would be a bit difficult, but I'll just do it every time I'm talking about it.
All right. This is going to be a hell of a cast, guys. All right, well, I'm bracing myself.
Well, then by extension, so would Oman, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's
oh, yeah, we have to yell Oman. I'm
going to not do this, and you guys can have fun.
Is it HID O or HID 0?
I think, I'm not sure I'll get invited back if I keep doing that. We'll find out. See if I can make it interesting casting-wise. Kashkos has to use the ult there as he ends up in a weird position on the lane. But down towards the bot lane, we once again turn our eyes where there will be no yelling because these names are spelt without vast quantities of of capital letters. That's what we're looking at. And we're getting words from production to please don't yell Oman too loudly because the compression on our mic can handle it. But you know what? You can't control me, production. Maybe I'll do it just the once. Just the once.
Fight
I haven't tried to compress it. I can exactly fight the power. Unfortunately, fight the clipping on my microphone and the eardrums of all the people listening in. I'm not sure they'll appreciate that. Either way,
crowd may not be as high.
They
as
make up the market, and the market
I'm
controls
not sure
us.
the reward is that high a payoff.
1 bit versus.
You can't put a price on freedom.
Alright. There's a herald.
There's some commentary on capitalism that could be made there, but perhaps we'll leave those philosophical musings to Seneca, who was in fact Nero's tutor. That's what that's based on. There you go. That's the name.
We did it. Was it Roman law dive that we did earlier?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
okay.
I was looking into Seneca's roots as Nord to secure themselves a second herald. And yes, Seneca was indeed. Seneca the Younger was
not
Nero's
this Seneca.
tutor. Yeah, not this Seneca. He's Seneca the Younger.
Don't tell us how young. I don't want another one of those crises.
I know. Not you looked. Who knows? But anyway, it's a very philosophical route for a namesake. It was a Stoic philosopher. There you go. Came to a slightly rough end at the ends of Nero, but hey, welcome to Roman history. It's certainly an interesting one to check in as Azator contests some vision. There's not that much that's happened really so far. Got another herald to play with for Nord, but really we're waiting on what looks to be another dragon before we see the next point of contest, unless something happens around this bot lane tier 1.
Looked like they were trying to catch Azator on his way to catch that bot wave, and he's missing out on a little bit of it here, which is, well, he's actually not because they get first turret. So gold funneled into Oman. The play was to try and defend it. They are unable to do so, and now they're caught a little bit behind. I think that if Nord would have wanted to, they could have walked their way into the mid lane, popped that herald down, maybe set up for taking 2 turrets in like one play. Instead, they don't do that, and they're going to be resetting now. And with 2 minutes on the Drake, a little bit strange. They're going to be sat on these items as they head out to that second or third objective, second Drake for whoever ends up claiming it. But if they can actually funnel Hido, a Gale, or a Navori before he has to take this fight, that'll be a really big break point for Azaya. The second item for her, very, very powerful.
Kind of interesting to me that they've opted to send bot lane in towards mid at this point. If they just keep playing bot lane in on side on top, Aphelios has to keep matching, and Aphelios is forced to go to the mid section to try to deny it. But that's basically a free topside tower they have there with Azir holding mid. You have a lot of power in this composition to maintain a 1-1-3 setup as much as you can, and it's on the enemy to try to prevent you from doing so. I think you slow the pace of the game down by going bot lane for bot lane already as Nord. I think there were definitely better uses of the setup that they had. And then you can save the Herald for the eventual mid play on Drake timing.
Well, they all turn up towards this top lane. It's Oman that's getting the shove in there. Has got the crown completed and currently 1-0-2. Doing pretty well in the game alongside Hido, and there is that charge on in. That's a phenomenal shove in the wall. Mordio has to flash. Seneca gets the knock up and forces Uniq Corn to press the ultimate. See, I've yelled once. There we go. That's the end of it. Unless I see a truly phenomenal play.
You call that yell?
I can get louder, but right now it needs to be a better play because he's taken desperately low. Because it was a bit of a whimper of a play. Doesn't really get that much out and is forced to back on out of this one.
This is just free time on both turrets. Nord are coming up huge on the map because they're going to use Herald to take this
so much value.
Hido's solo mid lane, he's going to be able to take that turret. We even see Uniq Corn TP. Oh god, Azator almost dies. Uniq Corn TPs to the mid tier 2 to try and defend.
Grand entrance just wide and Uniq forced away here. That's the tier 1, the tier 2 charge about to come on in. There's just any way to contest this realistically. It's just going to come on down. Over comes Uniq Corn. He's taken so low. Has the flash on out. Shuffled over the wall. It's Corn for dinner. He's taken straight down to the cleaners. Oman does die, but it is at a decent price. He buys his life dearly. 3 for 1 in the top lane alongside a Herald charge into the tier 3.
Yep, the big thing about dragging everyone topside there is that the next rotation needs to be down towards the Drake. If you're resetting your team top and throwing them bot and the enemy has to be defending top, they are as far away from the Drake as possible. But Nord have found a way to send them back even further by sending them to the afterlife for the duration of that Drake timing. They won't be able to get that bounty, they won't even be able to contest it. Very good moves by Nord here to bring the game in towards the top side.
And it's good to see as well, Hido not just resting on the, okay, I got 1 turret, I can be happy with that, but meeting up with his team in this top side. Flashing on Uniq Corn because he knows the Ahri has no ulti. And Oman as well comes through, more than happy to try and shuffle in, find the kill overall. And yes, you get to see Hido knocked up, but he was still plus 1k HP. has that Navori item now, working towards that Lord Dominik's Regard, is actually only 950 gold away from being able to spend that and finish up 3 full items. Almost, well, exactly a full item up over Azator. With all of those turrets funneled into him and all of the gold off the map, Nord have just completely blown open this early game to a 6-2 kill score with a 6,500, 7,000 gold lead already in their back pocket. That's kind of crazy.
That's pretty damn good going. And of course, remember, Nord currently tied with Vanir at 3 and 4. Of course, with Domino losing on earlier to 4th Wallfield, this is a chance to jump ahead of them in the standings a little bit here, get that additional win, and look to make sure they're looking towards playoffs. Uko, now the next point of threat jumped up. Will not be knocked down quite yet until a couple more soldiers stick their spears into that Revenant and drag him down into zombie form. Nice pick off before anything more can be found. They'll take that gold and they'll move on away. Another kill in the inventory of Hido is 4-0-3 now. Navori complete, Kraken Slayer complete, on the way to a Lord Dominik's Regards on that back. This is a very scary Xayah. Maybe Kashkos could find himself in a spot of bother. Teleport to try and save the Gragas. And, oh, Uniq, I know what you're looking for, but there's just nothing to be found. That charm missing is a bit unfortunate. Waljo will try and Vault Breaker away, but there's just nothing in the bank. He's taken out by the guards of Nord. Unicorn, nowhere to be found. He might be a unique square, but I think you're going to have to find a bit more value elsewhere because it's looking rough this game.
Well, Baron can get started quite easily.
Yeah.
It's doing extremely rough, and questions have to be raised, right? We talk about Liam Cole as an Aphelios player. Do we start talking about Hido as a Xayah player? This is the second time he's had a really strong stat line on this champion, and this Azir Xayah double combo, we've seen it a few times in the NLC. It's very, very good at deleting these Barons. So maybe this is a composition that you just can't allow Nord to have. They seem to play extremely well with it, and they seem to be very comfortable, particularly in that AD carry-off.
Time for another episode of the podcast. Nord find themselves towards a 9,000 gold lead, a couple dragons, and a healthy advantage in a game that's really important to them. It is a very, very important to them. Because, of course, you know, as we were saying, Vanir, and who else am I thinking of here? Domino, of course. Right next to them in the standings, getting this win is really important because this mid-table is very, very tight. And this is pretty convincing, honestly, guys. And while we've got some issues with how Uniq have played the game, I do want to give some credit to Nord, who have actually done a really good job of getting advantage across lanes, getting that objective snowball rolling, getting a pick on the jungle at 20 minutes, and what do you know, Baron's there and waiting.
For me, it's much more about Nord dragging the map to exactly where you want it to be 30 seconds ahead, right? When the Drake's about to be spawning, they make sure the Herald is dropped on top side and they drag the whole enemy team there, so now they have the better route in towards that Drake. Sure, it ended up with a fight, but even without that, you know, the Baron's about to spawn. Where's the big play being made? It's being made heavily on towards the bot side, on towards that tier 2. Same position again, you now have priority on the Baron. And given that you have such fast control over these objectives, such fast deletion with the Azir and with the Xayah, I think it's a brilliant map play from them. For me, this game is purely about Nord doing really well as a 5-on-5, rather than Uniq messing up.
Yeah, and it's worked. Excuse me. Should have used my cough button there. Got a little bit caught off guard as audio finds me back on out. There you go. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the solidarity. See, this is, you know, casters that cough together, I don't know.
Still don't
feel
get
bad
this
together. Yeah, exactly. Was about to say that actually Nord's next 2 games next week are against Natives and Verdant, which is, you know, getting this win now when the standings are so close, when next week looks pretty difficult to guarantee a win at all, is pretty important because there's not that much of the split left.
And it does go back to just which level of Nord do you get, because we look at that matchup and think, yeah, it's difficult, and then remember that in the first round robin, Nord were the only team that took a game off of Verdant.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of these hypotheticals about the mid section of the NLC table do start to, you know, become questions that we need to get answers to, and that can only be done by the game being played out itself, as we're seeing Uniq sort of use this cheeky bit of vision to try and catch somebody from Nord off guard. They're unsuccessful because Nord are playing such a good map state where they've got a pushing wave in top, pushing wave in bot lane, and those waves either need to be answered or 5 people lose out.
Oh, but this is the problem. Veteran called it out before. There's just so much disengage and you're so far behind. Uniq desperately try to pull the trigger, but they are firing blanks, and the response is an absolute army headed up by an Azir and a Xayah with a few too many sharpened feathers to a name. They've lost 2. The base is broken. I think they might look to end it right here, right now.
Zir with the optimal Affilio spill.
Just flashing on forwards there, absolutely feeling it. Decides against going too much further there. I was expecting a little bit more after the flash was pulled, and instead, Uniq have got one final chance to try and hold on. All inhibitors fall. Veteran, I don't even know where Uniq go from here.
Probably, back to base after clearing all of these minions.
Yeah.
Back into farm all the minions, back to base, and then back in to die to Nord and lose the game. I'd say they're in a disadvantageous position right now.
Yeah, that's a bold take, Veteran. I definitely, I'm used to you having some hot takes, but that is probably up there as the spiciest I've heard all day.
Yeah, not as bold as Oman or Unique Horn's name, but bold nonetheless.
I think you'll find... Does capitalize count as bold? Maybe Unique, though. About to try and find something. They've been on vision the entire time. We'll try and get something, but the Emperor's Divide comes on out. And again, the disengage is just so hard to get through. Hito begins to fire again, and the feathers just pull straight through the hearts of what remains of Unique's health bars. Azator limps back to base. Seneca throws down the quickness and shows that philosophy can sometimes lead to violent outcomes. Certainly got some violent delights in this game. And Yuko alone remains to try and defend against 3 waves of super minions, and there's nothing left to be done. Nord live up to their namesake. It's a cold, cold day on the Rift, and Unique are put to the sword, or at least in this case, the feather. 8, 0, and 5. Another masterclass on the Rebel Vastaya from Ionia.
Full disengage versus full engage. Goes about as well as